Children are such a bother. Go to a facility. I don't have a mother, okay? My name is Olivia Smith. I'm still in the 5th grade, living with my dad and mom. The 3 of us. My dad is really kind, and on his days off, he takes me out to play. My mom acts normal when dad is around. But when he's not, she seems cold and somewhat indifferent, making it a bit hard to talk to her sometimes. See you later. As usual, dad goes to work early in the morning. While eating breakfast, I said goodbye to him. Looking at the clock, it's almost time for me to go to school. I need to change quickly, so I hurriedly finish my breakfast. Thanks for the meal. After eating, I place my dishes in the sink and head to my room to change. Hold on. My mom stops me, pointing at the sink. Who's going to wash these, huh? Her eyes are cold, almost angry. Usually, I'd just change and go to school. But I felt like I'd get scolded if I did that. I'll wash them, I muttered. She suddenly yelled, "What? I can't hear you when you speak so softly." Suddenly, my mother yelled angrily. My body flinches, but I felt like it was my fault, so I apologize. Sorry, I'll wash them. Humph. Of course, you should. From now on, take care of your own things, okay? While angry, my mom threw her apron on the sofa and went to her room. I realized I should take care of my own things, as she said. I washed the breakfast dishes and left the house. At school, while talking with friends, the topic of parents came up. Hearing their stories, it seemed everyone's moms were kind, and even though they scolded them, "What's your mom like, Olivia?" suddenly asked by a friend. I found myself at a loss for an answer, but I thought maybe my mother's coldness was just a misunderstanding on my part. Perhaps she was in a bad mood because I hadn't been taking care of myself until now, so I answered that she was very kind. So, I said she was very kind, my friend said. That was nice, but I felt conflicted. I arrived home to find mom absent. Maybe she's gone shopping, I thought, settling into my room to start on my homework. As the daylight dimmed into evening, it was nearing dinner time, yet mom hadn't returned. Suddenly, I heard noises from the front door and the fridge opening. Peeking into the kitchen from my room, I spotted mom. "Are you hungry?" I approached her in the kitchen. "I'm back," she replied tersely, still in a foul mood. "What's for dinner?" I asked cheerfully, but my question seemed to aggravate her. Turning around abruptly, she glared at me. "What? Haven't I told you to take care of things yourself? Your dad's on his way home, and I'm trying to get dinner ready." I fell silent, about to fix myself some instant ramen when Dad walked in. "I'm home." Dad's cheerful voice filled the room, and Mom quickly took the ramen packet from my hands. "Welcome back," she said to Dad, her expression softening. "I went shopping late today. I'm making dinner now. Just wait a bit longer, Dad." Olivia. We enjoyed a family dinner later, and I had a great time playing games with Dad. Maybe Mom had just been momentarily upset. I drifted off to sleep thinking that if I managed my responsibilities better, maybe she wouldn't be angry anymore. From the next day onwards, I made a conscious effort to take care of my own tasks. I washed my breakfast dishes, folded and put away the laundry, vacuumed my room, and even prepared instant ramen for myself when Mom came home late. I hoped these efforts would earn me praise, but Mom didn't seem to notice. However, she scolded me less when Dad was around, and we started enjoying our family time more. That made me happy. One night, I awoke to a strange groaning sound, convinced it might be a ghost. Hiding under my covers, I listened as the groaning persisted, eventually joined by the wail of approaching sirens. The ambulance came to a stop near our house, confirming my fears were grounded in reality. Confusion gripped me as I heard commotion at the front door, realizing the ambulance was here for us. Rushing out of bed, I saw paramedics carrying my father out on a stretcher. "Dad," I cried out, running to his side. He looked pale and sweaty, clearly in pain. Tears welled up as I clung to the paramedics, pleading for them to save him. They reassured me gently while taking him away to the hospital. Mom and I rode in the ambulance with Dad, anxiety gnawing at me as we arrived at the hospital. Dad was rushed off, leaving Mom and me in the tense atmosphere of the waiting room. While I was overwhelmed with worry, Mom remained calm, engrossed in her phone. Alone with my thoughts, I cried, praying for good news. Eventually, a doctor approached us. Mom and the doctor had a serious discussion, and though I couldn't grasp everything, I understood enough to know Dad had been diagnosed with a serious illness and needed hospitalization. Shocked by this sudden turn of events, I grappled with the reality of Dad battling an illness. Despite the relief that he wasn't lost to us, our return home was delayed indefinitely. After preparing for Dad's hospital stay, Mom and I returned home. Left alone, I lay in bed, unable to sleep. Morning came quickly, but I lacked the motivation for school. Ignoring breakfast, I stayed wrapped in my blanket. Around noon, Mom noticed my absence from school. She didn't scold me but hurriedly left, likely heading back to the hospital. Feeling hungry by midday, I ventured into the kitchen. Finding leftover rice in the cooker, I heated it up along with last night's dinner remnants. In the evening, Mom returned with packed lunches. Have this for today. I also got instant noodles for you tomorrow, okay? Thank you, I replied gratefully. I resolved not to burden Mom further with Dad's situation. The next day, I ate instant noodles for breakfast and returned to school. My friends asked about my absence and I claimed I was unwell. The teacher was understanding, aware of our family's circumstances. Upon returning home, Mom wasn't there. Assuming she was with Dad, I focused on my homework, longing to visit Dad during the next holiday. As I worked, the phone rang. Home alone, I answered. Hello. Oh, Olivia, what are you doing? Dad's voice brought tears to my eyes. Dad, are you feeling better? I want to see you, I said, choked with emotion. Sorry for worrying you. I'm okay now. I miss you too, Olivia. It would be nice if you and Mom could come visit. I'll ask Mom. Is Mom with you? I asked, puzzled since Mom wasn't home. Mom's not here. She must be on her way back from the hospital, Dad replied, his tone evasive. She left a while ago. She should be back soon, Dad. Did you eat anything? Yeah, Mom got me instant noodles, I answered, noticing Dad's silence before he changed the subject. After chatting with Dad, I heard the front door open, signaling Mom's return. Handing the phone to her, I noticed Mom seemed shaken as she took the call from Dad. I returned to my room, noticing the lingering smell of cigarettes on Mom. Curious about where she had been, the next day she asked if I wanted to accompany her to the hospital. I eagerly agreed, though she seemed hesitant. Together, we went. Seeing Dad after what felt like an eternity, he greeted me with a smile despite being connected to an IV. Olivia, you came. I rushed into his arms, overwhelmed with relief and happiness. We talked for a while until Mom gently reminded us it was time to leave. Reluctantly, we bid Dad goodbye as he waved at me, urging me to visit again soon. Little did I know that would be our final conversation. Dad's health suddenly deteriorated, and he passed away swiftly. I couldn't comprehend that he was gone. Clad in black as Mom instructed, we attended his funeral. Many mourners came to pay their respects. Observing Mom's composed demeanor, I struggled to accept the reality of Dad's absence. Lost in thought at the edge of the funeral hall, a woman approached me. Hey, aren't you Olivia? I turned to see a woman who bore a striking resemblance to Dad. Uncertain, I looked at her with puzzlement as she sat beside me. It's been a long time, hasn't it? I'm your aunt, Olivia. I'm your dad's sister, she explained, her features reminding me of Dad. Although I had no memories of my aunt, I recalled Dad mentioning her occasionally. Aunt, I responded, surprised. Don't you look just like Dad? Her laughter mirrored his, and seeing her face brought forth a flood of emotions. Suddenly, she enveloped me in a tight hug. It's okay to cry now, Olivia. You've been so strong, she comforted me. I hadn't realized tears were streaming down my face, but her words unleashed more. After my aunt consoled me, I thanked her and went to get a drink. Upon entering the room, Mom was there. Seeing my tear-stained face, she remarked coldly, crying. What an unsightly face. Aren't you sad, Mom? I questioned, bewildered by her lack of mourning. What's the point of being sad? He's gone now, her indifferent reply sent a chill down my spine. Had all our happy family moments been mere illusions? Did Mom harbor resentment toward Dad? Frozen in place, my aunt approached. Oh, there's my sister-in-law. It's been ages, she greeted Mom cheerfully. Mom's expression shifted. Long time no see, Mom replied flatly. Can I help with anything? She offered stiffly. No meat, my aunt dismissed. Well then, Olivia, let's go over here, she suggested, leading me away. Mom's discomfort was palpable. I stayed with my aunt until after Dad's funeral. We're leaving, Olivia, Mom informed me when it was time to go. My aunt had held my hand throughout the service, but she released it as we prepared to depart. Her expression tinged with sadness. Take care, Olivia, my aunt said softly. Yeah, see you, I replied reluctantly. As we stepped outside, an unfamiliar car pulled up. Sorry for the wait. A man, who seemed familiar to my mother, opened the car door. Inside, there was a stranger at the wheel, and I hesitated before reluctantly getting into the car. We drove away from home, and I sat silently, feeling uneasy as the unfamiliar surroundings passed by. We're here, my mother announced as we stopped in front of a large building in an unfamiliar area. Mom, where are we? I asked, but she simply lit a cigarette and coldly replied, Kids are a bother. You're going to a facility. What? I couldn't comprehend what was happening as my mother and the man drove off, leaving me behind. I tried to chase after them for a while but soon realized it was futile. Feeling lost and unsure of what to do next, I returned to where they had left me. Just then, a car pulled up beside me and the window rolled down to reveal my aunt. I can't believe this is happening, Olivia. Get in, my aunt said with relief, and I quickly climbed into her car. She patted my head gently, and tears began to flow as the tension I had been holding finally broke. How many times are you going to cry today, sweetheart? She asked softly as she drove. We eventually arrived at a house that I recognized as my aunt's. I followed her inside as instructed, feeling a mixture of relief and confusion. Welcome back, a friendly male voice greeted us. I instinctively hid behind my aunt, who chuckled and reassured me it was okay. Peeking out hesitantly, I saw a young man smiling warmly at me. Sorry, did I startle you? I'm this lady's husband, your uncle, he said with a gentle smile, extending his hand for a handshake. His kind demeanor reassured me, and as I shook his hand, he smiled warmly again. You must be hungry, right? Dinner's all set. You need to eat well to grow big, just like your mother says, he chuckled, and I joined in their cheerful conversation. My stomach grumbled, and I blushed with embarrassment, but they both laughed heartily. We then enjoyed a wonderful dinner together. Afterward, they offered me a bath, and they even had pajamas ready for me. In the living room, they had prepared hot milk for me. Hot milk? Aren't you a bit old for that, Olivia? Isn't that what elementary school kids love? My uncle teased, and I laughed along, feeling completely at ease. They joined in, sharing the light moment. Then they invited me to sit down with my hot milk to talk. Hey, Olivia, how would you feel about becoming a part of our family? My uncle's words caught me off guard, and I almost choked on my hot milk. What? Oh, sorry, that was too sudden, he'd apologized, patting my back gently while my aunt laughed heartily. Become our child? Do you want to go back to a mother like that? My aunt's question made me pause. I didn't harbor ill feelings toward my mother, but recalling the recent events with Dad and being left behind, I felt genuine fear at the thought of returning home to her. Actually, your dad had talked to me, my aunt began, mentioning Dad's name, which caught me off guard. She went on to explain further. The man with my mother was her affair partner, and your dad had found out about her cheating. He was really worried about you. When he discovered he was ill and might not have much time left, he asked my aunt to take care of you after he was gone. Hearing this, tears welled up uncontrollably as I longed to see Dad again. Your dad loved you so much. My aunt's comforting touch made me silently thank Dad over and over again. My beloved Dad, who always played with me. Determined to be strong for him, I spoke up. I want to stay with you and Uncle. They were overjoyed, assuring me that they would handle all the necessary arrangements for me to stay. I resolved to do my best to help my aunt and uncle, taking on tasks like preparing meals, cleaning, and more. You should play like other kids your age, they gently advised, worried that I was taking on too much. So I focused on my homework instead. Olivia, did you always do so much housework at home? My aunt asked one evening during dinner. I nodded silently, and my uncle pulled me into a warm hug. You've been through a lot for a kid your age, he said softly, his eyes misty. I nodded back, tears streaming down my cheeks. Being with them made me feel safe and loved. 2 weeks after Dad's funeral, I was called to the school staff room, unsure of what was happening. It turned out my mother had contacted the teachers. She probably doesn't know everything, I thought, feeling anxious as I picked up the phone. Olivia, answer the phone. I heard my mother's voice, loud and demanding as it used to be. Where are you? You're not at the facility I left you at, she accused, her tone cutting through me. I couldn't find my voice, remaining silent in response. Are you listening? Well, never mind. I'm coming to pick you up. Then the allowance will come in. Mama needs money right now. My mother's words sent a chill through me. The realization that I had sought love and approval from someone like her, and that she had betrayed my father, filled me with frustration. Now I have my aunt and uncle, a place that's important to me, and my beloved father watching over me. I can be strong. I don't have a mother, do I? Without thinking, I blurted this out to her. What? What are you talking about? You must have the wrong person. Goodbye then, she replied sharply, and I hung up the phone myself. The teacher next to me looked surprised, asking if everything was all right with my call. I brushed it off as a wrong number, and the call was flagged as suspicious by the school. Concerned my mother might show up at dismissal, I used the school's public phone to call my aunt. She assured me she would come right away, and she did. Explaining the situation to the school, they contacted child services for support. When I got home, my mother had indeed arrived to pick me up, but the teachers intervened and she left reluctantly, looking bitter. After that, my mother didn't cause any more scenes at the school, but as a precaution, either my aunt or uncle would come to get me before dismissal. I felt guilty, but my aunt and uncle reassured me not to worry. I recalled, smiling gratefully at their unwavering support. Life at school became happier, the teachers looked out for me, and I appreciated having so many people on my side. Then one day, a while later, the phone at home rang. Lately, I had been the one answering calls at my aunt and uncle's house. So, as usual, I picked up the phone. Hello, the voice I heard was one I didn't want to hear. Oh, isn't this Olivia? So you were there after all? My mother's voice pierced through the receiver, freezing me in place. I wondered how she knew I was there. Nobody should have told her. Stop staying there and come back. Things are tough here, she continued, speaking without waiting for my response. According to her, her affair partner's company had gone bankrupt, leaving them in dire financial straits. She needed me to return so she could claim government allowances for living expenses. She explained she was in a de facto marriage with her affair partner but was considering leaving him if their financial situation didn't improve. The situation bewildered me, but one thing was clear. She needed me solely for financial support. It seemed desperate if she had also called the school. As I remained silent, my mother's frustration grew palpable. Then suddenly, the phone was snatched from my hand. Startled, I turned to see my aunt standing there. Her smile vanished, replaced by a stern expression. At least respond to me. Are you listening? You're so loud and annoying. You should know I can hear you, she addressed my mother sharply. The line went silent at my aunt's intervention, and my heart raced. Aren't you ashamed to call your own daughter only for money? Is that all she means to you, to come back for something so trivial? My aunt's voice was filled with disappointment. What do you think, Olivia? She turned to me expectantly. What's it to you? She's my daughter. Give her back. My mother's voice came through defensively from the other end of the line. Who left their daughter at the front of a facility? Don't talk such nonsense. I'll call the police. Say she's been kidnapped. Go ahead. We have evidence of the terrible things you've done to Olivia. My aunt retorted firmly, her voice unwavering in the face of my mother's accusations. Actually, please do it. Might resolve things faster. My mother's response was surprisingly calm. Listening to their argument, I couldn't help but feel down, as if I were causing trouble. At that moment, my uncle, who had returned unnoticed, gently patted my head from behind. It's okay, leave it to us. It's time for the adults to handle this, he reassured me, leading me away to make more hot milk. You like hot milk, don't you, Olivia? You drink it a lot, he said with a warm smile. After a while, my aunt returned to the living room, noticing my worried expression. She ruffled my hair affectionately to comfort me. What's with that face? There's no problem. She's no match for me, she assured me confidently. I smoothed my hair and thanked her, then joined her in preparing dinner. Since coming to live with my aunt and uncle, I had discovered how fulfilling and enjoyable helping out could be. A few days later, the phone rang again, and it was my mother. Even though my aunt and uncle had told me I didn't have to answer anymore, I wanted to be of help to them. It's Olivia, right? Mama really needs help. I'm in trouble, my mother pleaded. As I said before, I don't have a mother. How heartless. I raised you, didn't I? Have you forgotten the fun days we spent together with your dad? Her words mentioning my dad startled and annoyed me deeply. I had a lot of fun when I had a dad, but the truly kind one was only my dad. You abandoned me, I responded firmly, feeling a surge of clarity and relief as I voiced my feelings. No matter what my mother said, you're my child, aren't you? She insisted. I didn't abandon you. I left you there. You said kids were a nuisance and to go to a facility. You said it while laughing. That's not a mother. I asserted, my words firm and resolute. It's not my fault, but you abandoned me, so I don't have a mother. My mother is my aunt, and my dad is my uncle, and my dad in heaven. You've been brainwashed. Stop complaining and come back, she retorted defensively. Before I knew it, tears were streaming down my face as I argued with my mother. But strangely, I felt a weight lift off my chest, as if I had been bottling up these feelings for too long. At least let me live in the house with you. I can't even eat if this continues, I pleaded. That's impossible. Don't bother the people I love, my mother replied firmly. Suddenly, sensing someone's presence, I turned around to see my aunt and uncle standing there. My aunt gently patted my head and praised me for speaking up. My uncle, with tears in his eyes, nodded in agreement. Then my aunt took over the phone and appeared oddly cheerful while talking to my mother. My uncle expressed how moved he was by my words and thanked me for calling him dad. Though I had said it spontaneously, their happiness made me feel warm inside. For a while, there was no contact from my mother, thanks to my aunt and uncle's intervention. Eventually, my aunt surprised me by buying me a smartphone. I was thrilled to have my first smartphone, exchanging contact information with friends and enjoying myself more than ever. One unusually quiet day, the house phone rang. Since the incident with my mother, the school had been using my aunt and uncle's smartphones to contact us, and my friends reached out online. Curious about who it could be, I answered. Hello, I said cheerfully. The voice on the other end sounded melancholy, in stark contrast to my upbeat mood. Hello, it's me, she said. At first, I didn't recognize who it was, almost thinking it might be a wrong number. We were always told not to talk to strangers. Then she added softly, It's Mom, you've forgotten your mother's voice. Oh, yeah, I replied, realizing it was indeed my mother, but her voice lacked its usual vigor, making it sound almost unfamiliar. You're in 6th grade now, right? Nobody's home right now. My mother's voice trembled as she spoke, and tears streamed down her face. I hesitated, unsure how to respond, but couldn't bring myself to hang up. Actually, I'm in the hospital. I've gotten sick, she continued, her voice strained with desperation. Her words about being ill reminded me of my dad, but instead of sadness, I found myself recalling the good times with him, feeling a surge of strength from those memories. There's no one to take care of me. Can you take care of me? Besides, I can't afford the hospital bills. Can you ask your aunt to help? Say something, she pleaded. Why should I, a stranger, take care of you? And I won't ask my aunt to pay your bills either. I won't tell my aunt and uncle about this. You need to stop this nonsense. Don't get cocky, I replied firmly, surprised at my own coldness. Her energetic tone for a sick person only solidified my feelings. Unlike when my dad was ill, her illness didn't unsettle me, it simply left me feeling sorry for her. I got a smartphone, and we barely use the home phone anymore, so it might be disconnected soon. This is goodbye, I stated calmly. Don't say that, please, she pleaded. Then give me your smartphone number. I can't. There's really no one to take care of me. No one to support me financially, she lamented. Then I'll contact someone who might take care of you, I offered, sensing a glimmer of hope in her voice. After quickly obtaining the hospital's name, I ended the call and promptly dialed my aunt. When I explained everything to my aunt, she listened attentively, expressing concern but also praising me for handling the situation maturely. Without hesitation, she contacted the person I had suggested as a potential caregiver for my mother. A few days later, the home phone rang persistently throughout the day. I suspected it was my mother and chose not to answer. Even after my aunt and uncle returned home, the ringing continued into the night. Eventually, my aunt sighed and picked up the phone, engaging in a heated discussion with my mother, who was persistent in wanting to speak with me. However, my aunt firmly refused her request over the phone. I could hear my mother's voice, frantic about her brother's impending arrival and questioning why I had contacted him. The person I had asked my aunt to reach out to was my mother's brother. I recall hearing that my mother always had a strained relationship with him. He was known to be stubborn, deeply committed to principles of duty and kindness, which made her affair utterly unacceptable to him. Upon hearing from my aunt, he was furious and insisted on coming to pick her up immediately. Their reunion after many years was fraught with tension, and it seemed my mother's anger was now directed towards us. My aunt initially handled the call, but my uncle unexpectedly stepped in. Despite his usually gentle demeanor, his expression turned stern as he took the phone. Enough. If you want to talk so badly, I'll come there. You'll apologize to Olivia right in front of her, he asserted firmly. Sick or not, you better be prepared, my uncle's voice thundered, causing my mother to gasp and abruptly end the call. Oh, she hung up, my uncle remarked calmly afterward, returning to his usual smiling self. It's true what they say, sometimes the kindest people can be the scariest when they're angry, my aunt whispered to me. Later, I learned that my mother had been taken to live with her brother. It turned out her illness was minor, allowing her to be discharged from the hospital soon after. She was now compelled to work on her brother's farm, contributing to farm chores and adjusting to a simpler life. Gone were the days of luxury and expensive items. Instead, she wore old clothes donated by villagers. Meanwhile, the legal process had been completed, officially making me the child of my aunt and uncle. They celebrated this new chapter with a joyous party where laughter filled the air more than ever. To my delight, I also learned that I would soon have a younger sibling. Overwhelmed with happiness and excitement, I resolved to treasure my family deeply from then on. That was my firm belief as I looked forward to the future with hope and gratitude.